Santiago Álvarez had always lived in a world of privilege. Born into a powerful family that controlled business empires across Europe and Latin America, his life had been carefully designed. Elite schools, lavish vacations, tailored suites, and a career that was more inherited than earned. Yet, despite all of that, his heart had not been tamed by wealth or convention. Years earlier, when he was still in his late 20s, he had fallen in love with someone completely unexpected, someone who came from an entirely different world. Her name was Gabriela, a young woman who worked as a housemaid in one of his family's estates on the outskirts of Madrid. She was radiant in her simplicity, with eyes that carried the depth of someone who had faced hardships yet had never let them break her spirit. Gabriela came from a humble family in Colombia, having traveled to Spain in search of work to help her widowed mother and younger siblings. Santiago had first noticed her in the gardens, humming softly while she trimmed roses, her long dark hair tied back, her hands careful but strong. From that moment, something unexplainable stirred inside him. What began as accidental glances turned into stolen conversations. Then, late one night during a storm, when the house was quiet and the rain battered against the tall windows, they found themselves in each other's arms. The passion of that night became a memory etched forever in Santiago's heart, but the consequences were far greater than either of them had imagined. Gabriela discovered she was pregnant. Fear gripped her. She knew Santiago's world would never accept her or the child growing inside her. She had seen how his family operated, calculating, ruthless, obsessed with reputation. She loved him deeply, but she was terrified of being crushed by the weight of his name and the cruelty of his relatives. Without telling him, Gabriela made a choice that tore her apart. She disappeared. She returned to Colombia with nothing but courage and her unborn child. Santiago woke up one morning to find her gone, her room empty, no note, no explanation. He searched for her for years, sparing no resources. He hired private investigators, traveled across countries, even visited neighborhoods where he thought she might have gone. Each lead collapsed into disappointment. Slowly, he began to believe she no longer loved him, that she had chosen freedom from him rather than life at his side. Years passed. He buried himself in business, but every success felt hollow. Nights were the worst. Sometimes he heard her laughter in a crowd or saw her silhouette in a reflection. He tried to move on, but his heart carried an emptiness that could not be filled. Then, one fateful day, destiny decided to intervene. Santiago boarded a flight from Madrid to Bogotá. It was supposed to be another business trip, one more negotiation with investors. He dressed in his perfectly tailored navy suit, carrying his leather briefcase, expecting nothing more than hours of paperwork and polite conversation. But fate had other plans. As he walked down the narrow aisle of the plane, looking for his seat, his eyes fell upon a woman holding a small child in her arms. She was seated by the window, her profile half lit by the cabin lights. For a moment, Santiago thought his mind was playing tricks on him again. His steps faltered, his chest tightened. The woman lifted her gaze, and their eyes met. Time froze. It was Gabriela. Her hair was longer now, her face more mature, but those eyes, those same dark, expressive eyes, were unmistakable. She stared at him with shock, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. Sitting on her lap was a little boy, no more than 4 years old, with soft brown hair and piercing blue eyes, the very same shade as Santiago, siglo. Santiago felt his heart stop. The boy turned his head and looked up at him with innocent curiosity, his small hands gripping Gabriela's dress. The resemblance was undeniable. Santiago's knees weakened, and he clutched his briefcase tighter to steady himself. Gabriela, his voice was a whisper, raw and trembling. She swallowed hard, tears glistening in her eyes, but she said nothing. She hugged the boy closer to her chest as if protecting him from the world. Passengers behind Santiago muttered impatiently, urging him to keep moving, but he couldn't. He leaned closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. Is he mine? Gabriela's silence was an answer in itself. Her eyes pleaded with him, torn between confession and fear. Santiago's chest ached with 1,000 emotions, anger, betrayal, longing, love, and above all, the overwhelming recognition of the child before him. The flight attendants intervened, guiding Santiago to his seat a few rows behind them. But Santiago couldn't concentrate, couldn't breathe. Every minute of that flight stretched into eternity. His mind swirled with images of what could have been, birthdays he had missed, lullabies he had never sung, a family he had been denied. When the plane reached cruising altitude and the cabin quieted, Santiago rose from his seat. He couldn't wait. He walked back to where Gabriela sat, his hands shaking. He bent down, his face level with the boy's, who looked at him with wide, trusting eyes. Hola, pequeño, Santiago said softly, his voice breaking. The boy blinked, studying him carefully, then smiled faintly, the way children sometimes do when they sense kindness. Gabriela's lips trembled. Santiago, please, not here, she whispered, her voice a mixture of desperation and fear. But Santiago couldn't hold back. Gabriela, why did you leave without telling me? Why did you take him away from me? Tears spilled down her cheeks. She looked away, clutching the boy protectively. I had no choice. You don't understand. Your family, they would have destroyed me, destroyed us. I couldn't let them take him from me. I had to protect my son. Our son, Santiago corrected fiercely, his eyes glistening. He is ours, Gabriela. You should have trusted me. You should have let me fight for you. Her voice cracked. I loved you too much to watch them crush you. You were destined for a life they would never let me be part of. I couldn't live with the shame they would throw at you because of me. Santiago's chest heaved. He reached out, trembling, touching the boy's small hand. I don't care about destiny or their world. This boy, he is my destiny. And you always were. The boy looked at their hands, then back at Santiago with a curious tilt of his head. Mama, he asked softly, who is he? Gabriela broke then, sobbing quietly. She kissed her son's forehead, whispering, he's your father. The words cut through Santiago like a blade, but they also held. His eyes flooded with tears he couldn't contain. For the first time in years, he felt whole. The rest of the flight became a cocoon of whispered conversations, stolen glances, and tentative touches. Gabriela explained the hardships she had faced raising their child alone, working endless hours, sometimes going hungry so her son could eat. She told him about the nights she cried herself to sleep, clutching a photograph of them, wondering if she had made the right choice. Santiago listened with both heartbreak and admiration. He saw the strength she carried, the sacrifices she had made, and the love that had never truly left either of them. The boy, whose name was Daniel, soon fell asleep across both their laps, his small hand clutching Santiago's fingers. By the time the plane descended into Bogotá, the three of them were no longer strangers separated by years of silence. They were a family reunited by fate. But questions still loomed. Would Gabriela trust him enough to let him be part of Daniel's life? Would Santiago's world finally accept them, or would they have to build a new one together? As the wheels touched the runway, Santiago whispered into Gabriela's ear, his voice steady with determination. I lost you once. I will never lose you again. Whatever it takes, whatever battles we must fight, I'm ready. For you, for him, for us. Gabriela looked into his eyes, seeing not the wealthy heirs she had once feared, but the man who had never stopped loving her. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope. At 35,000 feet, love had found its way back to them. And this time, Santiago vowed, nothing, not family, not society, not the weight of the world, would tear them apart again. Their story was no longer one of loss, but of rebirth. A story of a man who found his son, a woman who sacrificed everything, and the miracle of love that refused to die. And as they stepped off the plane together, hand in hand, with Daniel between them, Santiago knew the real journey was only just beginning.